welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV WORLD. An interesting day in the political history of Pakistan. There has been so much going on with regards to the political scenario in the country and a lot of speculation and uncertainty as to what is going to be the future of the current government. In recent political developments, we know that CM Punjab has submitted his resignation to Prime Minister Imran Khan, and Prime Minister Imran Khan has nominated Chaudhry Pervez Elahi as the CM. Punjab. He's also met with Chaudhry Pervez Elahi, and this has been the recent development as well. At the same time, we also know that there are different political parties also getting together. We see representatives of the BAP, also part of a press conference of the opposition, and then we also see the Federal Minister Tariq Bashir Chima offering his own resignation, as also claiming that he is going to be voting against the government as well. This, of course, are the statements that have been coming out in the recent past today, and we also know that the political scenario even before that has been encircling around as to what is really going to happen with regards to the no confidence motion. In the National Assembly session, we've seen that the no confidence motion has been tabled, and we saw that this is now going to be happening on the 31st of March. We also know that there was a major political rally by the PTI government yesterday, and we saw interesting developments coming in from Prime Minister Imran Khan's speech as well, where he mentioned foreign conspiracy as to be behind toppling his government. All of these we're going to explore further in today's show and try to ascertain whether or not the political party currently in ruling is in trouble or not. Is there any way that they can actually strengthen their position further in the coming days to come, and what really is going to happen with regards to the future of Pakistan? For all of this, I have been joined in the studios as always by Farrukh, Pitafi and Raja Faisal. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with the show. We'll also be joined by our guests online very soon. But I'll start with you, Farrukh. What really is going on in the country? We've seen so much happening and so many different cards play out that we can't really for sure say anything, can we?
Right, Sana, it might be exciting for many young people who are actually seeing politics now. But for people like me who have been studying politics for quite some time, this is Pakistan's politics. It has been happening for quite some time.
Right.
And today we saw that, again, it is part of democratic process that the opposition can table a vote of no confidence. But last time, remember, when there was a backfire and because of that, there was a vote of confidence, it backfired in the face of the opposition, if you remember, and the Prime Minister was victorious. And now one has to see, at this moment it seems that political parties, especially the small political parties, are losing cohesion, particularly when you talk about PMLQ. We saw that PMLQ's one member, they have 5 seats. One member has announced he is going to go against the will of the party. And then we saw something very interesting. Balochistan Awami Party has also 5 seats. And one of them, Federal Minister, now was not part of the opposition's presentation. That means that 4 people are going from the opposition, from the government side, Balochistan Awami Party, towards opposition. So the number game will continue to change as we speak, because there are many interests. MKM hasn't actually spoken. The government's own dissident groups haven't actually spoken so far. We don't know what becomes of that. But it ain't over till it's over, and PTI has told us that it is going to bat till the last ball.
Right.
So I think that at this moment, everything will be premature.
Right. Faisal, would you have the same opinion?
Yes, Sana, I would say I think game is over for the opposition parties, I must say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, game over. Because if we look at, of course, Farrukh has rightly pointed out that, of course, the change would take place in Punjab, and this time around, the sacrifice, which was much needed one, would be coming from Lahore rather than Islamabad. So the sacrifice of Lahore will ease everything in Islamabad on Constitution Avenue. And if we talk about, why it is taking place and why people are obviously, the allies of the government, as they are switching sides, there are few of the other side people are switching sides as well, or at least thinking about switching sides. Why it is taking place? It is taking place just because of yesterday's, extravaganza type of political gathering which took place at Parade Ground, and I was personally there, and I just want to tell you that this was something I never saw in past before, never saw it. And
Okay.
I think it was an excellent step forward by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and it was much needed one. To me, I think why I say that it was the best step forward, because this is how the democratic parties should do whenever there is a political chaos within the country. The
Okay.
governments and the parties, the ruling parties, they should always seek help from the people, because a government stands for people and it is of people and by the people and for the people. So that's how it should be. And to me, I think, Sana, I just want to tell you that my sources are telling me that if conscience is waking up on on the allies
So
side,
many definitions of
there
conscience these days,
is conscience. There is conscience that would be waking up very soon from within the PDM parties as well. Especially, I am getting a number from 5 to 10 of the members of PMLN. They are thinking about switching sides,
Okay.
and they are thinking about not coming to obviously this no confidence motion. The only reason behind it is that conscience has woken up,
All right. Let me just also welcome in our show our guests who've joined us online. Meher Tara, who's a political analyst, has joined us online. We've also been joined by Barrister Asad Rahim, who's a legal expert. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Farrukh, you were adding something?
Yeah, regarding the numbers, we sort of know about PMLN's dissidents. There were 5 people who had met for CM Buzdar. So there was a chance that they might actually defect. But what is interesting today is when today the motion was tabled, the opposition at this moment, the number that the formal number that we have is 163 members, right? So 161 of them were present. 2 others could not come, but they will also come. We don't know what exactly is going to happen. There is a chance that there might be defections from PMLN side as well. Then there is the mention of one People's Party's MNA who was abroad because he was absconder in a case of Nazim Jokhio. That person might not be able to vote as well. But even so, the number on the other side, or the way things have unraveled, you can't be certain about anything. Right now, it is important to remember that the Prime Minister was a skipper of Pakistan cricket, and he doesn't only play for today, he plays for day after tomorrow as well. So yesterday's rally was essentially, I think, more a step towards next elections, and I think it was brilliantly bold, brilliantly batted also. But I don't know whether it is going to change the number game in the parliament as we speak.
All right. Meher, I'll come to you. When we talk about what is going to happen, Faisal earlier was talking about how it's game over for the opposition. Would you say that is true? All right, I think we might have lost our connection with Meher. We'll come back to you. Asad, how about you? The same question to you. When we talk about the political scenario, of course, there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot has been changing in the past few days as well. Do you think that right now we can say for sure whether or not the current government is in trouble?
Asad, can you hear us?
Asad, I think you'll have to unmute your mic because we unfortunately cannot hear you.
We still can't, but unmute yourself and start talking, sir.
All right, we'll come back to Asad and Meher later. Faisal, you were talking about earlier this surety that what is going to happen is not going to be something which is going to affect the current government and the ruling party. But as Farrukh was saying, the numbers game have been changing, and they might change in the coming days as well. So how are you so sure about this? Just because of the dissidents from PMLN?
Sana, if there are obviously concerns within the members of the National Party of the sitting government, then there are few of the members from the opposition side as well whom they have been having concerns related to their leadership as well. And of course, they are eyeing upon their own politics as well, their own constituency as well. So to me, I think this is the reason. Plus, Yesterday's, yesterday's political gathering was, I would call it really a turning point,
Yeah.
because it has given a sort of opportunity to many of the members of National Assembly and provincial assemblies to ponder upon their stance, and that is why we are, through our source, we are getting this number that but there are few who are thinking about it, who want to switch sides, who want to abstain from voting against the Prime Minister in the National Parliament, and of course they won't be appearing, they won't be coming, and there would be many like them who would be thinking the same. So to me, I think this number which is being given to me, 5 to 10, it might increase itself in coming days.
All right.
Do you want me to actually recount how many seats are there?
Sure.
I can give you total breakup as well. There are 342 seats in total. PTI at this moment has 155 of its own. Then MKMP has 7. PMLQ has 5. One of them has decided to go against the government. Then Balochistan Awami Party has 5. Again, one will vote for the government, and then GDA is standing with the government, and Awami Muslim League 1 seat, that is also. So that puts the total to 176. Now you can also talk about the dissidents in the government side. Similarly, when you talk about the opposition, the number tally stood at 163 after the defection of Shazain Bukti. And then we heard that one independent also is going to go with the opposition. So the total number is going to be 164 as we speak. And then with Chima Saab announcing, it becomes 165. And then add 4 of Balochistan Awami Party, it becomes 169. And then that means that the opposition at this moment needs 3 more to show that number. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know. Whether there is going to be defection. But at this moment, today, 161 of them actually presented themselves while the motion was being tabled.
Right. Barrister Asad, can you hear me now? Please say something.
Ji, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Great. So with regards to the political situation, what we're discussing in terms of the number game, how do you see the current developments, especially those that happened today?
Well, it's quite unfortunate. I feel that the central government could have taken many steps so as to not reach this point. This is the first time in very many years that things have gotten so far that a vote of no confidence has been tabled against a prime minister, neither against the PMLNs nor against Pakistan People's Party's 2 prime ministers each have you seen this motion. And much of this is because Parliament has not been used as effectively as it should have been, owing to our own public representatives. Legislation has been roadblocked, presidential ordinances have carried the day. So perhaps if Parliament had been more of a focus in terms of our elected representatives using it to debate legislation, there wouldn't have been such an impasse. With the resignation of the Chief Minister Punjab, there has obviously been one major roadblock removed. This was a rather strange decision. Not even some very hardcore PTI supporters were able to justify it. But I will say this, though, that over the past 24 hours, it does seem that things have become a lot more positive for the government. I don't think they're out of the woods yet. But it would be in everyone's interest that the current dispensation complete its term. We are at that stage of our democratic process where it is crucial that one of at least 22 prime ministers completes his 5-year tenure.
Right, Asad, one very quick question. When the chief ministership is going to go to another party, how do you think it is going to play out within the PTI's own ranks within Punjab?
Well, I think it should play out quite badly. The current candidate from Pakistan Muslim League CAF is, excuse me for saying, but somebody who is well versed in no confidence intrigues. The first time he did it was in 1986 in the Punjab Assembly against Mian Nawaz Sharif Sahab, and he was aided by Mr. Shujat Hussain and Mr. Yusuf Raza Gilani. For the same gentleman to now show up on the basis of just 10 seats in Punjab and 5 seats at the center and decide to take over a province of 110 million people is, I fear, rather paradoxical for the PTI, who came on a manifesto of change, who came on a manifesto of strengthening institutions and a new deal for Punjab. Instead, you have the same gentleman who has been in one dispensation or another and has been in charge of the province from 2002 to 2008 and whom you virulently campaigned against. So it's politics of the old and it's Purana Pakistan. And I do feel it is a bad day for Punjab and Pakistan to the extent of this gentleman's imminent appointment.
Right. Meher Tara, same question to you with regards to the nomination that we have of Pervez Rai. Of course, this is something that perhaps the PTI government had an option in terms of saving the government, in terms of going ahead with the no confidence motion that has been tabled. Do you think that this move with regards to CM Punjab's resignation has come a little bit too late, and then the nomination of Chaudhary Pervez Rai itself is also, as Asad was pointing out, create more ripples instead of solving problems?
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm sorry I muted my phone, and by the time I unmuted it, you couldn't hear me. I agree with what he's saying, that this doesn't make any sense for PTI to have somebody in this position after 4 years. I mean, somebody who does not really have the number to support the position he would be occupying. If that happens, I can't really say with certainty what's going to happen in Pakistan today, tomorrow, or the day after. At the moment, it's very unfortunate that things are exactly the way they were when we were little. You know, we grew up in Zia's time, and we thought things would change. We thought things would change with every government, but they didn't. Benazir Bhutto's governments, Nawaz Sharif's governments, and what happened to Nawaz Sharif in 2017, Yusuf Raza Gilani in 2012. One would think that at least these parties would have the understanding how it feels to have your government dismissed for one reason or the other. Because I'm one of those people that I, despite being a PTI supporter, I did not approve of what happened to both these gentlemen.
Right.
And
I
was.
Maher Sahaba, if you permit me to flip the question and ask you that the change that was made possible in Punjab right now happened primarily because of the opposition, not because of the treasury benches. And that means PMLN and People's Party were ready to have Pervez Rai also as their chief minister. Now the question is, how is it going to play out in their own circles? That these parties could have brought the leadership to their own side, but they actually chose to push it to somebody else. Does it not reflect on the lack of unity within PMLN, the Mariam Hamza divide, so to speak?
It's look, everything about this scenario is wrong. I don't think, number one, I don't think Chief Minister Minister Buzdar should have been removed at this point. I have been following the work of Punjab government. I don't know the nitty gritty. I can't really say if corruption had been done. I do not have any way to confirm that or repudiate that. But I do know that they have been working because I've been constantly following their work. I mean, they can't be lying about the roads they are making, or the hospitals they've made, or the schools they've, or the schools that have the education system that has been rehabilitated. There are like a number of things. I won't go into that. I'm not here to defend the government. The thing is, when you say there is a no confidence motion in an elected parliament, well, that means that government has lost the confidence of people. Now look at the situation. All those people who were at the Sindh House, and when you look at their political history, all of them who were elected on the PTI ticket in 2018 lost on other parties' tickets in 2013. Either they were they came on reserve seats, or they had been defeated in the previous election. That means that their vote was not theirs, and they got the vote on Imran Khan and PTI's name. Now, when it's Parliament, yes, there are these 362. I'm sorry, I may be saying the wrong number, but I think it's 362. So these people do not represent themselves. They represent the hundreds of thousands of people, the crores of Pakistanis who voted for them. So to say that they suddenly they don't trust the Prime Minister to be a good good head of state, or he's not doing what he's supposed to do, or there's inflation, or Pakistan is in turmoil, and Pakistan is going, everything is going down the drain. I don't buy that, because I don't believe that the people of their areas, or people of their constituencies who did not vote for them because of their own names have suddenly turned against Pakistan. Prime Minister Imran Khan. Everybody knows that what has happened is that in the last 4 years there has been this tussle to remove Imran Khan from his position. The biggest example, you can see how wrong the whole thing is when you see who who the person is, who PDM is being led by at the moment. The so-called progressive, liberal, forward-looking, people-focused parties have Maulana Fazlur Rahman as the head, who's somebody who's against women, who's against women in power, who's against minority faiths in Pakistan, who's always talking about creating chaos one way or the other. He's always threatening every government. It's not that what he's doing is not that hasn't happened the first time. Or what I'm trying to say is that this is not.
Meher, that of course is the whole point, that when we talk about the opposition's moves, and then we understand that perhaps it's only limited to what they're trying to achieve in terms of just creating the scenario, and not perhaps having a mandate or an agenda of their own as to what is going to actually evolve after all of this happens, which is a real question, because when we have opposition parties didn't play the role, we've never really have had that sort of a role before. Farrukh, I'll come back to you, Faisal. Farrukh, when we talk about the situation, and we've talked about how the parliament is an important body, of course, and then the opposition parties are important, not just in terms of trying to topple the government, but also in terms of contributing to the government actually fulfilling its commitments. That has never been there, and that doesn't seem to be the case even now, because as you pointed out earlier, once all of this is even over, where are the political parties, the opposition parties even heading? No one really seems to have a plan.
Right, and first of all, let me totally agree with Asad Rahim regarding the inability of Parliament to, complete its legislative business. If you remember, one of the only few laws that were made with consensus was the extension of Army Chief and a couple of other things, right? Hardly anything else was done in consensus, and it felt occasionally, while sitting here, we used to debate whether the Parliament is even functional. And at this moment, no matter what happens, I think everyone is ensuring one thing: people are going to lose faith in the parliamentary form of government. This is a debate that has been going on in this country, which has checkered a history of democracy. Parliamentary democracy and democracy itself always remains under trial. And right now, political parties and MNAs, MPAs are not helping their own cause whenever such disruption takes place. But having said that, I think there are complaints that are piling up against the provincial government in Punjab, particularly PTI's inability to affect this change. If they had to do it, they could have done it a month ago, right? And had they done it, I think damage control would have been far more drastic and effective. At this moment, today, there was no confidence motion that was not tabled, but Punjab Assembly was requisitioned against CM Buzdar, and that day he resigns and changes come. So that is not good news. I think my worry is that political party eventually, after the dust settles and situation settles, they will have to sit together to work out a future plan where democracy is strengthened, where parliament is strengthened, where economy is strengthened. Remember, at this moment, our economy is barely out of the ICU, and we have long-term commitments with the IMF, and our finance minister is someone who is perhaps at this moment it is believed that he might be replaceable, and the same goes for the head of State Bank of Pakistan. So that there is a lot of complication, and anything can go wrong, and it can make your and mine lives difficult.
Sure.
Sana, I want to go towards Asad. Asad, looking at the GT road politics, We know that key players are Chaudhurys from Gujarat, and of course, if Chaudhry Parvez Elahi, he is going to be CM of Punjab, and we know that there are certain MPAs and MNAs from GT Road side who traditionally used to always align themselves with PMLQ, but obviously they knew that the party that would be bagging most of the votes would be PTI, and they aligned themselves with PTI in the previous election. I just wanted to know the very people. I mean, I hail from a constituency where, my MPA, he happens to be obviously someone who aligned himself with the PMLQ in past, and now, of course, he contested election on BAT, and that's how he won. And I just wanted to know, CM of Punjab, Chaudhry Parvez Elahi, being in the chair, the big chair of Lahore, would it give strength to Punjab government, number one? And number two, should PTI be worried about the next election? This influence, the CM influence, might play along, further down?
Sir, I feel that's an excellent question, and you are absolutely correct. Pakistan Muslim League Q has had great inroads into the Attock belt and by extension North and Central Punjab, something that many political commentators have commentated upon and something that your MPA's own experience demonstrates. My only issue is that we saw with this Buzdar dispensation, which in any other metric was a flaming disaster, the one thing that could be said to their benefit was that they somewhat reprioritized spending and development allocation for southern Punjab. And this was not a conceit limited to optics. PTI had genuinely more representation in the south, and while the north and the center have a lot of their interests taken care of, and certainly PMLQ is going to tap into those same networks of patronage that they have been mastering since the late 80s, which climaxed from 2002 to 2008 that you alluded to. I still feel that there is a core question of legitimacy. So even if they are in the big seats, the fact remains that their political appeal, their manifesto, their long history of switching sides, their mercenary element, has a very limited appeal with the grassroots within Punjab, regardless of how much of a network that you've mastered. And I think that is going to start corroding the PTI base, which, as a speaker was mentioning before, in fact, sir, I think it was yourself, the energy that we saw in Islamabad, even the PTI's greatest opponents would say that this was not something that they were expecting. This is compromise politics, but as Farrukh Saab mentioned, it is unfortunate that we had to get here. In an alternate reality, they had picked a strong contender in Punjab that wasn't Osman Buzdar, and that did not force them to make this Faustian bargain this late in the game.
Asad, you are not merely a good analyst, but you are a brilliant, legal eagle as well. Let me ask you about the legality of the whole thing. When vote of no confidence, assembly was requisitioned, and then the CM in question resigned, what happens now? This entire thing is over, or the opposition can repeat this thing by bringing another motion against the next CM?
Absolutely, sir. It is not over. In fact, the rules for the chief ministership are more or less in accordance with the rules for the prime ministership. Now it is up to the provincial assembly to vote in a chief minister, quote unquote, to the exclusion of any other business. And with the appointment of Mr. Parvez Elahi, there again you can file a requisition for summoning the Punjab Assembly and putting in another vote of no confidence. There is no bar. But the idea is that the political numbers are such that the PMLQ will then marshal the rest of the PTI and the PTI dissidents who surprisingly, in fact, rather unsurprisingly, that same tier of electables that the PTI defined itself against in 2013 and co-opted in 2018 have decided that Mr. Parvez Elahi's name is preferable to them than Osman Buzdar's. So a subsequent vote of no confidence, while legally permissible, is perhaps practically not that probable. Having said that, we should also see that a lot of these are pressure groups with ties to the land mafia, with ties to the sugar cartel, and their goal has always been not to actually do something better for Punjab, but to keep the FIA's handcuffs away to keep the center away and to create essentially a blackmailing operation, which we have now seen culminate in the appointment of Mr. Elahi. So congratulations to them. The more they prosper, though, Pakistan fails.
Yeah. Meher, I just wanted to ask, looking at the obviously Punjab and CM election coming up, appointment of Chaudhry Pervez Elahi, could we expect that few of the members from the opposition parties, especially from PMLN and People's Party, we can expect that they will be voting for Chaudhry Pervez Elahi as well?
See, I'm just kind of, my mind is blown away. I'm one of those people. I was still hoping for, things to go the right way. Everything Asad has said, I agree with everything he has been saying now and earlier. The thing is, I'm not against the idea of having Chaudhry Pervez Elahi becoming the Chief Minister of Pakistan, of Punjab on his own merit. He was considered a good Chief Minister. People still talk about some of the development works that he did. It's not about Chaudhry Pervez Elahi. It's about the idea of an individual or a group of people who do not represent the majority of Punjab to be able to dictate their terms to an elected Prime Minister and to have him dismissed as Chief Minister. It's not about how competent or incompetent Usman Buzdar is or was. It's not about that at all. It's about the entire system being so convoluted and remaining convoluted, and people blackmailing parties and individuals making decisions that affect the lives of millions of Pakistanis. It's as I said, it's a deja vu. It's just the same old rotten system repeating itself again and again and again. How it could have been prevented, how it should have been prevented. This shouldn't, any of these things shouldn't have happened. The only good things, why I think one of the best things that Benazir Bhutto, before her assassination, was able to do was to convince PMLN, or was it the other way around? I'm not sure about that, but they decided to have at least at least some sort of democracy in Pakistan. That okay, let one government finish its term, let one prime minister finish their term, let the system at least be functional in Pakistan. How are we even talking about anything related to democracy, about having a government, about that government doing the right thing? Because it's not about issues.
About this as well. When we talk about the system being convoluted, and at the same time we talk about how we at least should let the system complete its due course of time, isn't it sort of contradicting each other? When we talk about a convoluted system, is it really a democratic system that's completing its time? Because if it's just a matter of due course to be completed, then what's the point if it's redundant in its principles, redundant in its competency?
Very sharp question, by the way. Please.
Are you asking me? Because I don't believe that people have lost confidence in the government of Pakistan just because there is inflation, or they think certain things have not happened the way they should have. I don't think that is the case. People flocking to Islamabad yesterday from all parts of Pakistan. It's not incidentally, however, or in whatever way people look at PTI, whether they like the party or not, they cannot deny the fact that at the moment it is the only party that represents each and every part of Pakistan. So for anybody to say that people have lost confidence in the government of Pakistan, that is not true. That's what I'm saying. That the system has been convoluted because this is not a fight. This is not a fight for people. This is not a fight to bring.
No, I understand that. I'm not saying that the people have lost confidence. I'm just saying whether or not a convoluted system should complete its due course.
No. It's they have not convoluted the system. The opposition has made sure that whatever has happened to them, it's on superficial level, and on a very deep level, it's very simple. Whatever has happened to them, they had made sure that the same thing happens to Imran Khan, whether they think it happened because whatever happened to them before 2017, Imran Khan had no role to play in that. How the way military coups happened in Pakistan, presidential dismissals through courts, everything that has happened to various governments in the last 30 years, or even to what happened to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and the era of darkness with that unleashed. I don't think anything is ever. It's simply got to a point that all these parties that have been wronged, and I would always use the word wrongly. They have been wronged, no matter what the grievances against them were. And now they are doing exactly the same thing to Imran Khan. That we were not allowed to finish our terms. We were not allowed to have one prime minister for 5 years. We will not let you do that. That is my entire point. It is not about the nitty gritty. It is not about who was doing a good job in which province. Is Murad Ali Shah better chief minister than Usman Bazdar? Did Jam Kamal deserve to be sacked the way to be unseated or deseated or whatever the legal term is, the way he was? That's not. Or is Mahmood Khan a good chief minister? That's not the point.
All right, and I understand your point. Farrukh, I believe you want to add something.
Yeah,
and Meher talked about nitty-gritties, but don't you think the devil's in the details?
Well, what you were saying earlier, one, there is a problem with us analysts who are sitting in Islamabad, the federal system, right? We have this, pardon the expression, the God syndrome, that we think that any system can be brought down just by wishing it, right? It can't be. If something is standing there, it is because of evolution of stuff. But there is another thing very important. Remember, systems are not convoluted. Cultures are. Cultures pollute systems as well, and gradually culture changes. There's a movie called Gangs of New York, shows about 100 years ago, when in New York, whenever there was firefighting, right, there was fire in a building, there would be not one but two or three firefighters who would reach that place and first duel among themselves, and whosoever was left alive would actually put down the fire and get the money. That country has evolved to such a level that today we give example of America's democracy, right? It is important to remember, if system keeps on moving, evolution will come. But the problem right now, when you talk about Punjab, and by the way, we kept on talking about Pervez Elahi, just remember that he was one of the good CMs of Punjab. He delivered a lot, right? The aspect about Bazdar government was that he must also be a great administrator. I wouldn't know, I never saw the details. But the point is, people forget that now politics has become show business as well. Why do you think Donald Trump became America's president? Why do you think President Biden has so much hard time? Because you have to romance with the screen as well. And the chief minister who just went away didn't have the kind of charisma that was needed to fill the void left by his predecessor.
So are we aspiring towards that without substance even?
No, I think that both of these things will go together. You'll have to have show business and you'll have to have substance. And I think Bazdar government did many great things. For example, health card. For example, housing. For example, a lot of development in various areas. Let's hope that in coming government in Punjab, that traction, that trend actually finds traction. But then there is also charisma as well.
Right. Asad, I'll come to you. When we talk about the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, an important factor that was highlighted by him was with regards to foreign conspiracy and elements involved in toppling the government as well. What do you make of that? Is this political rhetoric, or is there something behind it which will actually play out in the coming days?
Well, I fear that both sides have elements of truth to what they are saying. Pakistan has a long and, again, to use the word, convoluted history of foreign conspiracy. We've had diplomats kill Pakistanis in the city of Lahore, quote-unquote diplomats, who turn out to be CIA agents. We have people who masquerade as people who are selling vaccines and inoculations in the northwest frontier, who again turn out to be CIA agents in the form of Mr. Shakil Afridi. You can go all the way back to 1960 when airplanes were being shot down and they were launched from Peshawar, There is a deep and abiding imperial interest in this country. And to pretend otherwise, I feel, is very disappointing. So that's the first part, that yes, they are interested. But the second part, I feel, where the Prime Minister overreaches is we've had coups in 1958, 69, 77, and 1999. There is zero element of foreign involvement that actually pushed these military rulers over the finish line. Every single coup has largely been a local operation that they were then later subsumed by the demands of empire is a separate story. What does that mean? That means that while the Prime Minister can claim international conspiracy, and I don't doubt there is one, the major problems remain local. The major problems remain Mr. Buzdar. India and Israel did not force Mr. Imran Khan to appoint Usman Buzdar Chief Minister of Punjab. The frayed relations with other people that we cannot speak about on PTV is not, again, a result of an international conspiracy. So international conspiracy is step 10. It's imperative for the Pakistani leadership to fix those domestic problems that are from steps 1 to 9 before we even start speaking about foreign conspiracy. At the same time, this liberal commentariat that springs up every single time to whitewash 70 years of external intervention in this country, I also feel is very, very overblown. They need to understand that these people will continue to intervene. Of course, it is Pakistanis like Hussain Haqqani who wrote a letter to a chief of a foreign military to actually get him to intervene here, which was confirmed by the Supreme Court Commission of Inquiry. It is locals like that, native informants like that, that need to obviously take first responsibility in ruining Pakistan.
Yeah, Meher, I just wanted to ask you why the international establishment is so fearful of Pakistan's multipolarity, Pakistan's foreign policy. If it gets multipolar, why they get deterred of it? If we talk about India, India is buying, of course, crude oil from Iran. Iran, of course, is sanctioned. If we talk about certain Western European countries, they have obviously they have been buying energy sources from Russia, and once again sanctions there. And if we talk about S-400, if Turkey buys it, it gets sanctioned. If India buys it, it doesn't get sanctioned. Why, whenever Pakistan wants to have multipolar foreign policy, suddenly we see a problem coming from the international establishment? Why is that? Meher?
How I look at it is that Pakistan's economy, Pakistan does not really matter to any of the big powers. They don't care how Pakistan suffers in the process of a new sanction or a new set of conditions that would make things more terrible for Pakistan than they already are. China and India, they get everything. I look at it in a very simple way. Their economies can withstand whatever happens. Pakistan has been in a position for so long, in this position for so long that it is expected of Pakistan to a certain Western line to not have its own foreign policy. I don't know how it's influencing by Imran Khan's government right now, but yes, everything that he has said has gone against whatever the rest of the West, the big countries have done in the last few months. The most important thing is what happened vis-a-vis Russia. It's just that they all want Pakistan. They all want Pakistan to be a strong democracy with its own strong governments. But then on the other hand, there are all these factors that come into play, which Asad just explained, and so did you. Or how I look at it is that Pakistan should, as long as Pakistan is not in a very strong position economically, these things will continue to happen. It is all about what you can give to the world, what role you can play in the.
All right, thank you very much, Meher Tara, for joining us, and also Barrister Asad Rahim for being with us in the debate and being part of the show and talking in detail with regards to what is happening in the country and what can possibly evolve in the coming days with regards to the political scenario. The discussion does not end here. We'll be back with you after the 8 p.m. headlines with you for another hour to discuss what is going on and what are the possible scenarios for the future. So stay tuned.